All right, hey guys. So I'm working on the new Jeep. I'm getting ready to tear or pull the motor out. I've ripped all the carpet out. I'll show you guys that in just a second. Um, if you get these Jeeps, obviously this thing, the previous owner, I guess just, you drive it into a water hole, and trying to pull the motor out with a dirty vehicle is just not the most fun I've ever had, but it's not terrible. Thankfully, pulling a Jeep motor is pretty straightforward. Things are easy to get to. That's another reason why I wanted to go back to the Cherokee platform. I'm not a huge fan of the 4-liter. Even though they're amazing motors and they're reliable and all that stuff, I just, for one, they hate water. Hate water. I mean, you get water in these things, they're done. Maybe the V6s, the V8s tend to deal with it a little bit better. Not saying that they all do. Depends on how much and where and all that. But the other thing is these motors are heavy. They are freaking heavy. They're like 550 pounds. The head on them weighs about 100 pounds. So that's my only complaint. Otherwise, some of the, I'm used to a little bit higher RPM range. These, 4-liter straight 6 motors, anything less than 3,000 RPM, they're golden. They do have a lot of torque, but that's my only complaint. Otherwise, it's been a great motor. But they are super easy to work on, and people get stupid high mileage out of these things: 280, 300, 300 plus. The only bad thing is that the heads can warp. Just machine them, flux them. Usually the blocks don't warp unless they got stupid hot. Stick it back on, keep going. So, but I did like the V8, the 318 in the Grand Cherokee, but everything behind it was just crap. And on the XJ, the motors, they're good, but the transmissions, the autos, the AW4s, and the transfer cases are all solid. So it's kind of, for me, this is just a personal thing. I love the what's behind the 4-liter more than I like the 4-liter itself. Other than that, pulling it out, as I said, is pretty easy. But I'm going to show you guys some of the process that I'm going through, and then how I'm going to do it in the yard, because I have destroyed my yard using an engine hoist or cherry picker in my yard, and I pull it out with my lawn tractor, the truck, or a vehicle or something. It just digs ruts this deep in the yard. So I'm going to build some sleds for the engine hoist so that it will slide out, and then I'll take the hood off, pick it all the way up, and then come out. And then hopefully that whole unit will just slide out in the grass. Or maybe I'll make some wheels. I don't know. Doing this in the yard without concrete, pulling motors, it's all fine and dandy until you got to pull the stupid thing, and then it just sucks. So a lot of people, they might have a big tree or something with a chain hoist, or I could maybe build something like that. I'm out here in the open, and I got to use what I got. So let's get into it. So let's talk about the front end here. All the hoses for the water pump, and the water inlet into the head the hoses have to come off. Really, it's kind of like peeling a banana. Like, I'm just going to take the layers off of each side. So all the wiring harness and everything, can come back. The fuel rail can stay on. All of that can stay on. The power steering pump, the AC compressor, you don't want to take the hoses off because this one's got pressure in it. I'm not going to do like an AC delete or anything. I'm just peeling it off to the side, setting it to the side. The hoses are a little bit in the way of the motor mount, but now I have clean access to the motor mount. Really, it's going to be, I'm almost ready. I've just got to do the bolts for the starter, get the cables off of the starter, pull the starter, undo the flywheel bolts, the bell housing bolts, I'm sure there's other little knickknacks that I'll have to do, and then of course motor mounts, and then we can start the pull out process. Of course I got to do the exhaust, which to me the exhaust on certain vehicles can just be a real pain, just because those bolts, they get heated on so hard, and it's good to soak them in some brake free for a day or two, or even at least 15 to 20 minutes before you get in there and do those exhaust bolts. So I think that'll about sum it up for the actual procedure of pulling the motor. I pulled a motor on my last Cherokee that I had years ago. It took me forever, but I had never pulled a motor before, and I was having to do it at my mechanic's yard, and I just didn't have tools readily accessible. So I got everything here. We're gonna keep on rolling. There we go. Down there's the starter. I cleaned up the starter bolts, a little bit of brake clean, and get those off. And I mean, I could, now that I'm thinking about it, I could leave all that attached, but to be honest, I think I'm gonna spare part that pull that starter off and leave it just as a spare. So I'm gonna have to undo the cables. Otherwise I could just unbolt it from the body and leave the wires hooked up, so that way I just bolt it up again. But the new motor I'm going to get is going to have the starter attached, or actually it won't, because I have to pull it anyways. So yeah, it's kind of a 6 1/2 dozen the other. So I just pulled all the spark plug wires, they're out of the way. So yeah, don't forget this motor is trash. I'm keeping the spark plug wires as spares. I might keep that cap and rotor. Those are usually pretty cheap. The coil pack I might keep. All this stuff off of this intake manifold is like one of these high flow, newer, like 97 and up model intake manifolds. They're sought after, they're nice to have, but the electronics on them are great to keep as spares. Don't throw those away. Alright guys, so it's about to get dark, but I wanted to just show you something real quick. I just did not think about this when I was pulling the, tearing the motor down. This motor is seized, and I that's like whatever, but I can't turn the flywheel, which is the crankshaft, to take the torque converter bolts out. I could probably pull the motor away from the pull it with the torque converter, but I really don't want to do that. Like, that's I'm pretty sure the training in here is good. I don't feel like doing all that, so I'm looking at other methods. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the spark plugs out, and I'm going to throw trans fluid in all the spark plug holes, quite a bit. And that trans fluid has a lot of detergents in it, but it should seep into those rings and all those piston heads. Hopefully it'll lube it up just enough to, and I'm betting, because you got water in there, there's a lot of the either the wrist pins, the connecting rods are all twisted. We'll get in there. I'm sure they're just going to be somebody looks like a screw. Because that's usually what the water does. Just the compression will end up just twisting those connecting rods, and that's why it locked up. I mean, that's just a guess. We're going to do a full video of the teardown and see what happened, but I'm hoping that will allow me to get in here quickly, unseize the motor. It's just going to make it so much easier. I could pull the head in place. It wouldn't take me that long to rip the head off of this thing, but that's a lot more work, because the whole intake and exhaust manifold has to come off, and it's more labor for nothing. So let's get to it. I wish I had a battery operated one of these, but I don't. This is the next best thing. It is stupid loud though. Super cheap. I have to get more torque, and just wrenching on this stupid thing, you know, if the engine was free would work, but it's not where we're at. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some screws. I've got a big breaker bar. We're gonna put some screws in there and see if I can screw those in a long way and then torque against those. So we'll see what happens. All right, so these bolts that I've got, these are harmonic balancer pulley. This is like one of those harmonic balancer pulley kits. You need to pull one. It's got a little Y-shaped thing that'll go in there. I'm probably going to destroy these bolts, but I'll just buy some more. But one of these will fit. And then we're going to use a camshaft because I need something really strong and thick. So these bolts are pretty lame without much effort. I'm just bending them. Better bolts. What a bunch of junk. The good thing is when I'm doing it this way, it looks like I'm actually getting that flywheel to move a bit, so that's some progress. I could try gently pushing on the flywheel teeth. The problem is if you booger up flywheel teeth, you gotta buy a new flywheel, and that just sucks. So I might actually have a spare one, and I will have the one off the old motor, or the new motor that I get that's hopefully good. So I might try that real quick. All right, we're gonna move on to plan B, which just irritates me. We're gonna pull the head. Such a stupid amount of work. Let's get to it. Alright, so the goal is the exhaust is undone. This intake manifold should be free from trouble. So I'm going to keep this ground cable. I'm going to try to, it's going to be crazy heavy, but you know, that's the only simple way to pull it out, is just get this whole thing and just pull it off. So these take some special sockets. It's like a T, I don't know, 20 something. Yeah, maybe these aren't Torx. It's just like a star head or something. Maybe it is an inverted Torx, but the somebody had done a valve cover gasket on this. This is a Felpro. Yeah, it hadn't been too long since somebody did a gasket on it. And of course they didn't, see the oil back there, they didn't tighten it correctly. These valve cover gaskets, you have to get them seated perfect. You need to use a like a torque wrench or a 1/4 inch torque wrench. I think it's like 20 inch-pounds or something. Maybe you go a little past that, but there are directions for torque specs for the valve cover. Follow those, otherwise you will get leaks, which is what we're seeing here on the back, even though this is a new gasket. Been through that a bunch. Okay, so this, I guess that this is a either way, it's a gear wrench. It says 13 on it. It's not really a 12 point. Maybe it's like an inverted, and it's not Torx. Forgive my ignorance. I just forget what this is called, but don't matter no more. We're gonna rip it off. The back bolt's always a pain. All right, so this last bolt here, obviously, you know, you got the firewall part of the you know, actual Jeep frame in the way. You leave that bolt in. When you put, if you do, this is not like a video on how to pull a head, because I'm doing it super quick and dirty way. And you know, to pull them, you might do the same order to remove, so that you don't induce any kind of warpage or anything. Of course, a lot of these heads, you're only pulling them if they are warped. So, and you want to buy new bolts. These bolts, some of them are stretch bolts, some are torque to yield bolts. Buy new bolts, especially if you already paid all that money for get a head finished. Pay an extra 30-40 bucks, get some bolts. But either way, this bolt back here, when you put the head in, that bolt will be on the head prior to seating, seating it on the block. That's the only way. You can't put that bolt in afterwards. Maybe somebody's Houdini and they can, but I don't know how to do it. So let's get this other side. Oh, okay, it's still the same. You might completely regret trying to do it this way, but if I have to get the engine hoist out here to get this top piece off, I will. Because this whole setup is probably going to weigh 150 pounds, and I am not that strong. You know, maybe if I found Bubba. Alright, so son of a bitch. Alright. Should just be these two 15 millimeters here. So here's the AC bracket, actually, with the AC compressor mounts on. That's holding the head, because that mounts to another part of the block. So once I get that out, hopefully it'll just teeter over, and we'll be home free. $13. Well, that's nice. It doesn't fold over when you get it all loose. We got to pull all the rods out. Oh, gee. Wow. It's a lot of water on that head gasket. So, this head is going to have to be machined if I decide to keep it. I'll show you guys that here in just a second. A lot of water. This thing is just so damn long. And so freaking heavy. All I got to do is slide it over here, so if we can get it, we'll be home free. Gosh. What? Holy shit. Ooh, you guys are gonna like this. No wonder it was seized. All right, guys. I'm having to hold the phone myself, but I want you guys to see this. This is obviously the cylinder where the water entered, and I haven't seen one this bad. Even when I swamped my motor in my old XJ, I had never got anything like this. This is why this motor was froze, and there was no hope of me dislodging this kind of brake by turning the the front flywheel bolt. Let's check it out. Look at that. What a mess. I mean, just annihilated the piston. I just hope I can get dislodged enough debris in there to free the motor. And there's no amount of trans fluid that was going to dislodge that. That's just an absolute disaster. Wow. Gosh, look at that mangled mess. All right, let's get the flywheel turned over and get this thing out of here. I'm done with it. Had my day. But hey guys, we're gonna continue this tomorrow. It's time to go to bed. There's no reason to try to finish this tonight. The actual getting it out of here is quite a procedure, and without tearing stuff up. Yeah, you can just get it out, but I'm gonna probably want to pull the hood and make sure I don't bash the radiator up. So let's go again tomorrow.